All right, let's dive into one of the final and most detailed chapters of the Quran, Surah Al Ma'idah, which means the table spread. Now, this chapter is a big deal because it was revealed right near the end of the Prophet Muhammad's life. Think of it as a final covenant, a complete blueprint for a community that's meant to last for generations. So let's get into what makes it so important. Right off the bat, you get hit with this incredibly powerful verse. I mean, this was revealed late in the Prophet's life, and it really sets the tone for the entire chapter. It's basically a declaration of completion, that the faith is now perfected. The sense of finality makes every single law and lesson that comes after feel like the definitive final word. So, with that sense of completion firmly in place, the surah starts to lay out what this perfected faith actually looks like in practice. This isn't just about what you believe in your heart, it's a super comprehensive blueprint for how a community should actually function day in and day out. And that's really the fundamental question the chapter sets out to answer. How do you build a righteous life? Well, the whole framework it provides starts with a few core guiding principles that shape everything else. The entire foundation really rests on two key concepts: halal, which is what's lawful or permissible, and haram, which is what's forbidden. And this isn't just some random list of do's and don'ts. It's a whole system designed to promote well-being and protect people and society from harm. These two categories are going to guide everything that follows. What's pretty amazing here is just the sheer scope of life it covers. You've got regulations for personal things like what you can eat and how you purify yourself for prayer, but then it also governs our social contracts, like how to handle oaths, and even communal activities like hunting rules during pilgrimage. And of course, it sets some clear lines against things like intoxicants and gambling, which are seen as things that can tear a community apart. Let's just zoom in on one of those key terms for a second: wudu. This is the ritual washing or ablution that's mentioned in verse 6. It's a physical cleansing, sure, but it also symbolizes this spiritual preparation for prayer. It's about getting yourself ready, inside and out, to stand before God. Okay, so all these specific rules and rituals, they're not just floating in space. They all rest on a much broader, non-negotiable foundation that underpins the entire social contract in this surah. This unwavering, absolute command for justice. This is, without a doubt, one of the most powerful calls for justice in the whole Quran. It's telling believers to be constant, to always be standing firm for justice as witnesses for God. And the crucial part here is that it has to be impartial. This standard applies to everyone, no exceptions. Let's break that down, because the depth here is incredible. The verse explicitly warns you not to let your personal feelings, even hatred for an enemy, get in the way of being just. This completely reframes justice. It's not just a social tool, it's a core act of devotion to God himself. And you see this principle applied to specific laws, like those for theft, but it's always balanced with this crucial reminder: God is forgiving and merciful. The door to repentance, to turning things around, is always open. It shows you that justice and mercy are really two sides of the same divine coin. Now, after laying down all these rules for the community, the surah does something really interesting. It shifts its focus and looks back in time. It brings up stories about previous communities to teach some really powerful lessons about what it means to make and to break a covenant with God. So, the chapter talks about the covenant made with the children of Israel. According to the text, they were asked to do these core things: establish prayer, give charity, and believe in God's messengers. And in return, God promised them forgiveness and paradise. A huge story that shows the consequences of breaking that trust is the one about Moses and his people. He asks them to enter the holy land God promised them, but they refuse. They were scared. And that hesitation, that lack of faith, led to a divine decree. They would wander in the wilderness for 40 years. It was a direct consequence of their actions. The surah then draws a parallel. It says a covenant was also taken with those who call themselves Christians. And from the Quranic point of view, it says that they also forgot a part of the message they received, which ended up causing disagreements among them. And speaking of that, the surah really clarifies the status of Jesus, or Isa ibn Maryam. It makes it clear that he is a revered messenger of God who performed incredible miracles, but always, and this is key, by God's permission. It also goes out of its way to emphasize his human nature and his mother Mary's with this simple but profound detail: they both ate food. It even describes a scene on the Day of Judgment, where Jesus will deny ever telling people to worship him. So all of these themes, faith, proof, the consequences of a covenant, They all come together and culminate in the very story that gives this chapter its name, the table spread. This story is like the ultimate test of faith and responsibility. So here's how it starts. The disciples of Jesus come to him and they ask for a miracle. A pretty specific one, a table spread with food sent down directly from heaven. And this wasn't really about being hungry. It was about getting a sign that would just solidify their faith once and for all. And check out how this whole sequence plays out. The disciples say they want the miracle to reassure their hearts and be witnesses. So Jesus prays for it and even asks that the day it comes down becomes a festival, an Eid, for all his followers. And God's response is both a yes and a very serious warning. I'll send it down, but anyone who disbelieves after seeing a sign this clear will face a punishment unlike any other. It's the final lesson on just how heavy faith and proof can be. So in the end, when you step back and look at the whole thing, from dietary laws to absolute justice, from the stories of past nations to this table from the sky, this whole surah really is a final covenant. It's a detailed contract between God and humanity. And it leaves all of us with a pretty deep question to think about. In our own lives, what does it truly mean to uphold a covenant, to live up to our promises, and to bear witness to the truth once we've seen it?